Okay, this is a 2001 Mercedes ML320 w163 chassis. And what I'm going to be doing is replacing sway bar bushings. Let me move this light into the way so you can see how loose this one is. It's a little bit... You can see that move. I'm just holding the socket on it, and this rubber part is moving. It's just a rubber bushing. There's 4 of them. There's 2 on the inner part here, the inner part of the frame, and 2 on the outer part at the axle. So this one, I think that's a 15. So I'm going to remove. Now you can see there's 2 bolts there. There's one smaller one and one larger one. The larger one I'm on here, which is a 15, and this is a little clamp that locates the sway bar. So let's just take this bolt off first. And now the back one should be a captive nut. No, it's not. I've got to get around back and get the wrench on there. So there's another bolt in the back. So I'm going to take that off and we'll be back in a second. It's pretty simple. We're going to take off these 2 nuts holding this on and the same one on the other side. And then we're going to take off the 2 on the outer. You see, follow the sway bar, and there's a, see that nut right there? Sorry, in your light a little bit. There's a nut on the very bottom. I'm going to take those off and pull the whole sway bar off. So it's 2 bolts here, and then 1 bolt on each side on the outside, and pull the whole thing off. And keep it oriented. It only goes one way. You can't flip it over and put it on the other direction. It only goes one way. So we're going to pull this whole thing off and be back in a second. I'll show you the outer one. Actually, I might as well do that while I'm here. I can't get in there around the camera. Let's use a wrench. Oh, that's on pretty good. Okay, I need a cheater bar. So anyway, this is the other one we got to take off. That's the only other one. So this bolt, and then the 2 in the center that I showed you, and be back in a second. We'll do that on both sides. Well, the inner mount came off nice and easy, and as you can see how loose this rubber bushing is. It just spins. It's supposed to be tight around that bar, around the sway bar, but unfortunately, the bolt snapped on the outer. Now it's like a clamping type of deal. So I should be able to, obviously this isn't going to be fun, but I should be able to pop the clamp off. It's like a 2-piece clamp. The bolt goes straight all the way through and clamps up top. I did lube the nut where it pops out up top, but it must have just froze itself together. So I'm going to have to get these 2 pieces off. As you can see, they kind of squeeze together there. So this should come off. Then I'm going to have to remove that broken bolt, which I'm not freaking happy about. Rarely do I get a broken bolt in a Mercedes, but anyway, I just did. So I've got to work that one off. Anyway, this one's simple. The one's simple. I've lubed the crap out of the other side. As you can see, the lube's dripping off. Hopefully that one doesn't break as well. But I'm going to heat the crap out of that before I take it off. These are only supposed to be in at like 50 foot-pounds, so why it broke off like that, I guess just exposure to the salt and stuff, because as I said, I don't know if you can see it, the nut is exposed on top. Can you see that in there? I don't know if you can or not. But the end of the bolt is exposed on top and must just be covered in road salt and crap from years and years and years of use. Anyway, I gotta pry those 2 pieces apart and we'll be back. Okay, so this piece sorry, my camera just fell partly over. Hopefully it stays. This piece did pop off. As you can see, there's the hole where the bolt goes through. And there's the little stud bolt that I'm gonna have to try and worm out. I'm gonna have to heat it up and get it out of there. And there's the bushing where it fell through. And you can see how loose that is. Look at, oops. You can see how sloppy that's just flopping off of there. And that'll cause a little bit of sway when you're steering, a little bit of, you know, just going down the road, a little bit of sway, a little bit of clunking. And anyway, so for the next little bit, I'm going to be heating this up and getting this old bolt out, which is going to be fun as hell, let me tell you. Actually, a very poor design, if you ask me, for the bolt to be going through and actually coming out the other side is a little bit silly. But anyway, that's the way it was made. That's the way it's done. I'm going to pull this entire mount off just to get the sway bar out of the way. And I'll be back. I'm just going to pull the center. I'll pull these two nuts off of the other side, which is right here. Pull these two off, and then I can slide it straight this way, and it'll pop out of the other end pretty easily. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll work on getting this bolt out. Lovely. Okay, the sway bar's out, and just need to get around the camera to get it off. Sorry for the... So you can see the sway bar's off, and if you get this mixed up, and you can't figure out which way was up and which way was down, take a look at the end of the sway bar. Oops, let's get that in focus or in there. And you'll see there's this little curve near the end, a little very slight curve. That goes down. That's toward the bottom on each side. So if you've got it flipped over, you've got it wrong. This goes toward the bottom, a little slight gentle curve at the very end. See, there's the end. See how loose those are? That's why we're replacing them. And that little curve goes down. So now, other than working the that end nut, this should have been a 10-minute job if that end nut hadn't have broken. But alas, it is not, because it's broken. So I'm gonna have to work on that, heat it up, and get it out of there. So I will be back once that's all removed. And the reason I pulled the whole sway bar out now with that bolt broken and not work on the bolt, I can still drive this truck if I have to go get another bolt or whatever. But I can still drive it without the sway bar. It's not going to drive as well, and I wouldn't suggest any high-speed maneuvers with no sway bar on. But you're still drivable and you're still okay. But I can't drive it with one side hanging down, so the whole thing's off. It was going to come off anyway, but just because of the having to remove that nut, I pulled the whole thing off in case I need to go get another bolt, which I'm going to have to probably to replace that one, and that's fine. But for now, it's off. So I'm probably for the next hour going to be working on getting that bolt out, because I have to heat the crap out of it. And stuff doesn't like to be heated in the winter. Back in a while. Okay, back to the sway bar. Back to, because this has been 3 days for me. I've been driving without a sway bar for 3 days. Because it took 2 days to heat and pound the old bolts out of the sway bar mount, the end links. So I'm going to show you this underneath. Hopefully it's not too dark. On camera, adjust a little bit. So this hole that goes through the lower control arm, it's not threaded. I know there's people on the net will tell you it's threaded. It's not. Basically, you're going to have to hit these bolts. Even the dealership, I talked to the dealership about it, and they said they can't get them out without heating them. You've got to heat them up with a oxyacetylene torch. You can't use propane torch or anything. So you have to heat them up and then pound the mount out, and then get that the upper clamp, get the bolt out of there. And it requires heat, and a lot of it, oxyacetylene heat, not propane torch heat. You have to be able to get it white hot, or else you're not getting them out. Unless you live somewhere where it's, you know, where there's no rust, no road salt and that kind of stuff, then you'll probably get them out nice and easy. But anywhere where you've got road salt and nasty winters, these are not going to be fun bolts. It's going to turn a 10-minute job into a 4-hour job. Anyway, mine were heated. I had to heat them for 2 days, bit by bit, and pound them out, and then get the upper mounts off. And these are the bolts from Mercedes. the end link bolts. I should have just got, I'm going to measure these up for you and find out what size they are, so you can just order them instead of going to Mercedes, because they're like $7 a piece from Mercedes, and they're just a damn threaded bolt. They don't even need to be threaded. The shank doesn't need to be threaded. I put anti-seize on the bottom part of the shaft and Loctite on the top part. These are the lower clamps. You see there's no threads in the hole. The upper clamps do have the thread in the hole. That's what goes through and pinches them together. So now we're just going to put the bushings back on the sway bar. Now you're going to have 4 bushings. These are the 2 outers. They're flat on the one side. I'll show you that in a minute where the flat part goes. These go in either way onto the bar. These are the inner bushings. It's wide on one side, narrow on the other. And the wider part goes to the outside when you slip these off. The wide part goes to the outside. So you've got the narrow part that goes in against the clamp, and the wide part goes outwards. So I'm going to put slide all these new bushings on and be back in a second. Okay, I've got the bar placed in the middle mounts, just sitting in there, so I can wiggle the ends around. Now the end bushing is the flat spot is going to be on top that goes flush with the face of the lower control arm. And now you basically take your bottom bolt, your bottom clamp, and stick the bolt through it and work it into the top, and it's just a matter of weaseling it in the way. Leave these loose so you have some wiggle room to wiggle the ends around, but leave the clamps here loose, these bolts and clamps in the center ones loose, so that you can wiggle the ends around to get them in. Once they're all in, tighten everything up. But at 40 foot-pounds and 40 and 35, I think. 40, 35, I think. Or 40 and 40. 40, 35. 35 for these, 40 for the outers. Thread lock on the outers. You don't need thread lock on the inners. You can put it on there. It's not going to hurt anything, and it will keep. Thread lock also acts as an anti-seize. It'll keep them from seizing up. So I'm going to put these on, and you know what? I'll just leave the camera rolling as long as I have battery. Yeah, Jesus Lord. Sorry. My batteries are always dying on me. I never quite charge them enough. Okay, so these don't thread into the lower control arm, they just it's just falling through, and they're a little bit tricky to get in. I might have to actually apply thread lock once the bolt gets through again. And this is the reason why you don't want the center bolt, or sorry, damn it, these are supposed to be this way along the face, not the other way, sorry. Brain fart. And now the threaded one goes on top. And get the bolt threaded partly in. I'm not going to tighten it up yet. I'm going to get the other side in. And that's basically it. Tighten it up once it's done. I applied anti-seize to the ends of these, or to the plates where it meets the lower control arm there, because those were really rusted on. Amazing how hard those were rusted on. And anyway, that's about it, other than clamping everything else back up nice and tight and tightening everything up. This should be, again, if you're in a nice warm climate where there's no rust, this is going to be like a 15-minute job for you. If you're in the Rust Belt in Canada or anywhere where it snows and they put salt on the road in the winter, oh, it's gonna be a hellish job. It probably will be. Use a lot of heat. Again, you are going to need oxyacetylene heat. A propane torch is not going to do it. Even a MAP gas torch is not going to do it. You are going to need a ton of heat to get these bolts out. These bolts, these are the pain in the ass. Other than that, as soon as this video is over, once I put it, I'm going to post the, I'll put the specs for the bolt. I measured them and wrote them down somewhere, if I can find it. Thanks for watching. Okay, I just checked my specs. These bolts are about 50 foot-pounds, and these ones on the front are about 30 foot-pounds. And this bolt, if you don't want to go to the dealership and order it, make sure you get a grade 8 bolt, but it's a 70 millimeter long M10 by 1.5. M10, 10 meaning the width of the bolt hole, 10 millimeters, 1.5 meaning the thread pitch, 1.5 millimeters per thread between each thread. So 50 foot-pounds, and this bolt is 70 millimeters long, and it's an M10 by 1.5, 70 millimeters long. 25 foot-pounds, 25 to 30 foot-pounds, and about 50 foot-pounds. Anyway, thanks for watching.